Welcome to Born Political. I'm your host, Joe Delacruz. Super excited because this is our first live show. The plan is to be on Thursdays. This happens to be on Wednesday because I'm going to be actually flying out for the first time in my life outside of Connecticut for New Year's Eve. I'm going to a place that everybody typically goes on New Year's Eve, Topeka, Kansas. That's not true. Not everyone goes there. I happen to be going there because that's where my wife's family's from. We're gonna go see her grandmother, and I'm excited to be in a different time zone for the very first time during New Year's Eve is going to be pretty big. To watch New York ball drop and it's still only be 11 o'clock. I'm kind of planning my evening out, so I'm excited about that. I'm excited that this is our third show. I really haven't. The show's name is Born Political, so a lot of people they ask me about the show name and it's, oh Joe, you're just sitting there ranting and raving about politics and what your thoughts are, and that hasn't been the show at all. Never was the intention, and it's not going to be. But tonight, we'll have my first guest that's actually a political figure. I interviewed my mom the first week. The last show, I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but Judge Keppel was wonderful. We talked about probate. He was an elected official. But after further discussing about the probate and what they do and offer, it's very apparent that is not a political position. Today is different. And I'm really proud to have this guest on today because this is someone that I've known for a very long time. I had the pleasure of coaching him when he was in baseball as a young person. The second term as a counselor, but this year was elected mayor. So without further ado, I want to introduce the new mayor of the town of Groton, Juan Melendez. Mayor Melendez, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I heard, we were talking last year and you said how you wanted to do this show. And I was like excited. I want to see this show. And, I'm just sort of honored to even be on it. So I'm excited to just get into it.
Well, honored is a great word for me because I'm honored to have you here. When I thought about the show, I really wanted to get involved in finding out the business of who the person was, the person that I'm interviewing and what they're about. What's important is we have a political figure, and often too many times right now, especially with all the polarization, people will look at a mayor and not even know who they are. Like Juan Melendez, I don't like him because he's a Democrat, or I like him because he's a Democrat. It's really no reason to like or not like a person. I will tell you this much, I don't care, Democrat or Republican. Usually if someone's run for the town and try to be on a council or be a board member, a lot of those people have their heart is with their town. That's what I've noticed. Now, for you, what got you into politics? I know your whole family. They're beautiful, wonderful people, and I know how proud they are. They're as proud as I am.
Right.
So, what got you involved in politics? What made you say, hey, you know what? I wanna go make a difference.
That's a good question. I didn't grow up in a political family, to be honest. Like I remember in middle school reading about sort of my first presidential campaign, and I didn't even know what a Democrat or a Republican was. I didn't know what they stood for. But I think it really boils down to my senior year in high school, 2008, 2009. And as you probably know, that's the year Barack Obama got elected president. And I sort of watched that whole campaign like obsessively and just followed it. And that's where I really learned a lot about the things going on in the country. And, him being elected sort of made me feel like I could do anything. In a sense, you grow up, your mom always tells you you could be anything. Yeah. You can do anything. And you sort of like hope that's true, but you don't know if it's true. But when he got elected, it was like the first time in my life that I felt it was true. I felt like there was no ceiling for me. I could do anything that I wanted. Wow. So that was a lot of the inspiration for me really getting involved in politics. I started reading about it, following it, and I went to college, and when I left school, I sort of came back and I saw, and you think I'm going to say this just because you're here. I saw you on the on the council, and I was like, oh, I know Joe. I'm going to ask him, how to get involved. And I sort of, reached out to you, and you told me a good way to start is to, volunteer for a board or a commission in town. And so I did that, and I got on the Water Pollution Control Authority, and it just sort of led me here.
Well, I don't think we don't often think about how somebody got involved, and that to me is a great story. I think that's one thing. Whether you voted for Barack Obama or you didn't vote for him, no matter how you feel about him politically, he inspired a generation. Because not the very first time I heard that, but hearing it from you means a lot to me because I understand that. Here's someone that really wasn't talking politics at home.
Right.
My family was a little more political. My mother talked about politics more. My father, I asked him last week, or told him about. I said, Mom, I interviewed Mom and Dad. I don't even know what you are.
Right.
I don't know if my dad's Democrat or Republican because he just doesn't talk about it and he doesn't care to. So for you to say, you came out of this. So here's a young Juan. No one's really talking politics in the House.
Right.
And you see this new upcoming senator from Chicago, and he gets elected and inspires you to go on to where you were. When you did talk to me and ask me about what you could do, and I mentioned the board, I thought you were just another young guy saying, hey, what can I do to make a difference?
Right.
The night, I remember to this day, I was on the council, and I saw you coming into the town hall, which, again, being on the council, if there were 3 people in front of a meeting, it would be a big deal.
Right.
And when I saw you come in, I said, what are you, getting a dump pass? Or you must be buying a dump pass, so what are you renovating your house? And you said, no, I'm actually volunteering. And that to me was a breakthrough moment for me. I was really proud that night.
Right.
And to see how far you've come to where you've risen to is pretty amazing in this short time. But so what your first board of commission? What was that like? Did you enjoy it, or was it?
Yeah, it was Water Pollution Control Authority. They mainly approve projects for the sewer and set sort of the mill rate there for that. And we just met once a month, and it was sort of my first experience with Robert's Rules. It's really informal, but learning about making a motion and seconding and how a meeting works and runs. So, that was sort of a good education for me on that. And also just sort of learning a lot about the inner workings of the town, just from people. I was around people who were involved in town politics, so just talking to them, taught me a lot. And I was on there actually with John Rusbicki, and I was on there for 2 years, and he said, hey, look, we need some RTM candidates in District 5. I know you live there. Would you like to run? And I was sort of like, I didn't even know what the RTM was at the time, So I said, I looked into it, and then I told him I was interested, and then I made a run for that.
Well, most people don't know what RTM is.
Right.
My first experience in government was RTM. And actually, Liz Duart suggested it to me because I wanted to change the way that they kept score at the Park and Rec.
Right.
So when people think that they can't make a difference in their town, mine was driven by one decision of they should be keeping score in the 12-year-old league in Groton, and who makes this decision. And the funny thing is, there's always people making decisions for how much your taxes are going to be, for how your school program is going to be run, for what your Park and Rec looks like. And I think you noticed that at a younger age. Most people don't realize that. I didn't realize it till I was, in my 30s, thinking, wow, man, I really need to do something. If I want to see a change, I got to be the one that makes it. I'm excited because you're still a young person, and to me, I think your heart has always been with the community anyway, and you can't go wrong with that. But there's a lot to learn. You walked into you were elected, and then a pandemic happens, right?
Right.
So now you're a brand new counselor.
Right.
And how was that? Your first term is just chaotic, right?
Yeah, it was, I got elected, and then we had like a couple meetings in the town hall annex, right? Sort of the informal, you got the seats and the desk and everything, and then we went to Zoom, like a couple meetings in, and my whole first term was on Zoom. And it was weird at first, and scary, because we didn't know what was gonna happen, it was everybody's trying to flatten the curve, and felt a lot of pressure. I felt kind of hopeless. You're in this position where you're supposed to have, influence over things, but we couldn't do anything, right? Like it was just this moment of feeling like helpless. And I think everybody in the world felt it. And I was sort of disappointed that I couldn't do more. So I
Just so you know, for the outside looking in, you still governed. Now, decisions had to be made, votes had to be made for PPE to get to places.
Right.
You guys still were able to put a budget through to get
Right.
the education budget through. We did it too through Zoom at the level in Hartford. But to be walking, I remember when I first got elected, from the RTM to the town council, there's just a lot more people asking you questions. I remember when I first got elected too. You sit back and say, wow, in this town, before it was my neighborhood, RTM, my neighborhood voted for me, like hooray, like my neighbors like me.
Right, yeah.
And then you run for council, and now you realize that you're representing 40,000 people.
Yep.
And you went even to the point where those 9 councilors that were elected got together and voted you unanimously to lead them. And your phone hasn't stopped ringing.
Right.
I met you in the parking lot. The show starts at 5:30. We were out in the parking lot probably about 4:45, and your phone rang 3 or 4 times. There's a lot of things going on. I do want to clarify something. I shared a post today on my Facebook stating that the town of Groton was going to be setting up to deliver those test kits that everyone's so desperately looking for. And it's 2 per household. But I'm going to let you talk about what's happening, because right now that's in limbo.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it was supposed to be Thursday, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Fitch High School. You drive up and sort of every household gets 2 kits, but the kits are actually likely going to be delayed. So it's not definitely delayed as of right now, but the town manager heard from the state we may not get them in time for tomorrow. So once we hear that it's definitely delayed, I'll make a post, and the town manager will definitely get a press release out letting people know when we can get them and when the new date will be.
And that's the hard part, especially being mayor. You have a great Facebook presence. I know a lot of the councilors do. I follow when I'm looking to see what's happening in town. I can look at Facebook and find out what's happening. Not everyone's connected to Facebook.
Right.
They may have seen that this was going to be available on some different form of media. I'm not sure how they would have found out, because I think it's only on Facebook right now, or possibly getting some emails. Maybe the senior center's putting it out and making calls.
Right.
But I know people are desperate for it, and there's nothing worse than telling folks that something's going to be there and it's not. But I hope everyone understands. We know how logistics have been. We were told to expect the worst Christmas ever, and nothing was going to be in stock and nothing was going to be there. But I think we were pleasantly surprised to find out, and scary. We're afraid that our kids aren't going to get that toy for Christmas.
Right.
Like that's the biggest. Like we haven't learned anything from this pandemic. There's bigger fish to fry. But thanks for doing all that work. And I know, like again, votes have to be taken. People have to decide where they're going to distribute. What's the best place to distribute it from? And those are all decisions that happen through the council. Mm-hmm. You guys had your first meeting. How was that? I know first meeting's always a long meeting.
Right.
New council, new rules, new this, new that. So, and I watched it, and I thought it went well. I think you had a very calming presence, and I really think that you're going to have a lot of luck with the way that you run the meeting. But for you, from your perspective, how would it go?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. The first meeting was very long. I mean, we hadn't done business for a couple of weeks, so we had a lot of agenda items that we had to sort of catch up on. So we went out late into the night, 11:30. But yeah, the first meeting was kind of surreal. I was sitting in the middle and sort of moderating debate, and I'd seen our Mayor Granatoski do it many times, and she makes it look so easy. But it's definitely like a shock doing it yourself, and I feel like it went relatively smooth, and I think I'll just get better and better at it as we go along and as I get more experience. But it was definitely fun. I mean, all the counselors there, we had a good meeting. They got along, and I think that people will see that this council is going to be a unified front for the town. And even with our newly elected Republican friend, he's reached out to me many times. We have a very good relationship, and I just think the next 2 years we're gonna have a good time.
I think surprisingly, most people keep thinking that they're so divided. Well, we think we're so divided a lot of times. Joe Courtney, he talks about all of his Republican friends that he knows of and works with. I have a lot of folks that I work with on the other side of the aisle in Hartford. It happens locally. I think inherently what sells news, and I will say this all the time, I am the positive guy, but nothing really makes the news unless something bad happens. If you're at a huge party, a huge family event, and it goes perfectly well and everybody saw each other, hadn't seen each other for 30 years and got along, that will not be on Channel 8 News tonight.
Right.
But if one of your uncles picks up a drum and throws it over another guy's head and breaks something, it instantly becomes news. So
exactly.
Anything that happens, even on the council, a lot of people said this is going to be a tough council. They don't agree on everything. Well, guess what? There's 40,000 people that elected 9 people with all those different opinions.
Right.
There's going to be making the sausage is not the prettiest thing.
Right.
But it always matters how the sausage comes out. And you guys are doing the Wesley meatpacking version in Groton, I think, because the variance of opinions and the fights and the battles and those are healthy. It's what democracy was centered on. And I'm looking forward to the council moving forward and just really getting things done for the town that. What I've seen over just the last few, I got elected in 2014. I remember being on school building committees, and then to have those schools, to watch them be built, and the things that you do and change now, and be able to vote on school projects and see the town move, to have the wherewithal to vote on the community center. I mean, that was something that when I was on the town council, we were just in this fiscal crunch where we just said, no, community center is not what we need.
Right.
But what we're finding, especially through a pandemic, a community center is exactly what we need. Mm-hmm. And I know that the council that we have there now is going to look to expand that community center to make sure that we're giving people opportunities to go to places if they can't, like a pandemic or even in a regular time when kids need an outlet. So what do you think the future of the community center is going to be? I mean, I know it's that's a big open-ended question, but I know and there's 9 people on the council, but where would you like to see it go?
Well, honestly, this came from the last council. We sort of asked the town manager to come up with a plan because people were nervous. Oh, this is going to be something we spend money on, and it's never going to come to be as great as our senior center. Everybody loves how great our senior center is, right? And they're sort of saying, well, we're going to spend a whole bunch of money on this, and it's never going to be as great as that. And so we sort of tasked him with creating a plan, a full comprehensive plan of what it will be in the end, what it can be. And he's almost in the process of finishing that. He's sort of shared with me some of the details about it. So it's heavy on renovations and all this, and it seems to me like what I hope it will be is just a place as good as our senior center. We're not going to have the new building, obviously, but somewhere where you can go, because I went to middle school in that building, and obviously I love that building, but it is it needs to be updated, and it's going to cost a lot of money, which is why some people are against it. But I think what you're saying is during the pandemic, people have realized how important recreation is, and not only do we have a plan for this community center coming out, we have a plan. A group working on a plan for fields in town. We have a shortage of recreational fields. So definitely over the 2 years, I hope to see those 2 plans come to fruition.
You just look across the river, and what they approved to me was a brand new community center. I think it's $40 million that they're talking about spending. And they're going to actually have a scale where there's going to be folks that qualify for no cost, and then the folks that will also pay, and that helps maintain the buildings. 40,000 people that live in Groton, and to not have a community center. I was surprised when I first moved here from New London. I was a New London guy. I'm almost at the halfway point now.
Right.
I've been in Groton since '97, but from '71 to '97, I was a New London guy.
Right.
But for me to come to this town and understand, or try to understand, that there wasn't a place of community where you could meet. I think of Sensei Ralph, who has the karate program there. You get to see kids that have been affected by that program. That I just remember Ralph, when I was on the council, he just kept, hey, they kicked me out of this school. They kicked me out of this one. Now I'm moving over to this one. And there was no cohesive, no year to year. It's hard to build a program when they don't know what school you're going to be at. People forget.
Right.
And now it looks like he has a home. And I think just the fact that it is a building, it is an old building, it's going to need work, but it's a beginning.
Exactly.
And I think that's what, and to have the field that's next to it, you know, in my mind, it's like, why couldn't, I call it the Harry Watson dream. He wants a pool.
Right.
And everyone says it can't be done. I'm like, 40,000 people can figure out a way to put a pool in and have this new experience for seniors, for our young folks to learn how to swim. But that's the kind of vision that you need to look forward with. And I know there's someone that may be watching the show going, oh my God, they're just talking about spending money. But when you look at it, the overall health of a community, if there's someone that took up swimming when they were in their 50s and they're still swimming in their 70s, the chance that they're going to get taken to the hospital on stretchers all the time is a lot less. You know, and
Absolutely.
I don't think people quantify that enough. So quality of life is a lot. And again, we went through this pandemic, but I'm going to ask you this question because I have to.
Yeah. What's that?
Who was the best coach you ever had? I'm just putting pressure on him. But it had to be me. I mean, you didn't have any other coach, right? I asked that funny question, but you played. I just did baseball too, and I know you had other sports. What?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So growing up, I did baseball and track. Sort of. I consider baseball to be my first love. It's my dad's.
Oh yeah.
Pride and joy. He loves the New York Mets, and he sort of always took us to Shea Stadium, the games, and I grew up loving baseball and playing, and over the summers when I played on your teams, with Joey, that was some of the most fun times that I can ever remember, reminisce on. I always wish when the summer comes, I wish I could find some baseball team to be part of. But I also ran track, and in high school, I have to say, Coach Costa, he's still there. He was very influential on me. When you run track, there's indoor and outdoor season, and there's also cross country as well. So you're with that coach, if they coach all 3 seasons, the whole year, and you're there every night, for practice, and your meets are on the weekends. So you spend a lot of time with this coach, and Coach Costa was absolutely. Aside from my parents, like the most influential person on me during my high school years. He taught me a lot of life lessons about working hard, losing with grace, winning with grace, and sort of having my first experience as a leader, as captain of the track team, right? Yep. My first experience of, when I became the captain of the track team, I thought it was sort of, the fastest guy or the guy who gets the best times and wins. But I learned from that experience, it wasn't really about being the best track athlete. It was about, helping your fellow athletes who are struggling in school. Because if you don't have the right GPA, you can't participate in the team. Yep. So I spent a lot of my time being the coach, captain of the track team, helping my friends sort of with their homework, saying, hey, look, you gotta get your GPA up. Finding, kids who weren't coming to practice and they were getting involved in things that, trouble, right? And saying, hey, look, come to track practice, hang out with us, trying to be a good influence on people. And that was sort of the experience of being captain, whereas I thought it was just win.
The cool guy with the ladder, right?
Yeah, win the race. That's who the captain should be. And I got there, and it was sort of this other thing where I had to sort of, do things to help my friends. So,
that was a long way to say that Joe Delacruz was the best coach you ever had. But it sounds like Coach Costa won that competition. Listen, Juan, this is the 34th council, the town of Groton, 34th council, and there's a lot of firsts, but I'm going to tell you, I shouldn't claim this because I don't know every mayor for the last 100 and something years, but my guess would be if you weren't the fastest mayor that Groton's ever had, you've got to be top 2 or 3. I could be wrong. I don't want to offend anybody out there because someone knows mayors from the 60s and 50s. Everybody say, no, this guy was faster. But we were the fastest player I've ever had on my team. And that's why, the coaches seem to like those guys.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's a way. So there's only like 5 minutes left. I told you this was going to be fast.
Right.
We have a half hour to talk. And really what I want people to walk away with is a sense of who the mayor of Groton is and just your answer to me on what captain meant to you. because there's two ways you can take that. You know, you can be captain of a team and you can just be that guy that thinks that you can just walk through anywhere and do anything, or you can be like Juan Melendez. So I think that's going to help you in your mayorship. I see it already. I see this the same attribute you just talked about, what you learned and what you walked away with from being a captain. I think I got that feeling, and that's how you're going to treat the council, and that's how you have, I think, in your first 2 years. Being Zoom, I am hoping that you guys are able to stay in person. I mean, what?
Right.
And again, you're going to follow the science, and you always
Right.
have. But what is your hope for this new council? I mean, we're like we're 4 minutes out. But what's your hope for this council? Like I know probably to be physically in space it would be good, but
Right. Yeah, I would say like, not that we have much control on, but the pandemic, I think, and as well as the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting that money. So I think one of our major goals is to sort of allocate those funds in a way that sort of helps Groton recover from this once in a century occurrence. So I think that is sort of our number one goal. Or my number one hope for the council is to sort of use
And
that
I think
money.
a lot of that money that came to fruition was based on a country that had to look at inside of ourselves, a country that had to admit that we had problems and we had inequities. And one of the biggest inequities was access to internet, was with kids that don't have tablets. I think we were shocked to find out how many kids went home and didn't have access to the internet.
Right.
Because we were forced to find out. A lot of times we didn't have to think about it because kids just showed up at school. They learned at school. They went home. We didn't realize, to me, and I think the way we looked at it in Hartford is internet and information is as important as water and your electricity. And I think that's what you guys are going to look to carry forward. Somehow find a way to flow those resources in the right direction. And no one can do it better to me than a mayor and a town council, because you're on the ground.
Right.
So, I mean, I know you're going to be picking the right spots, but you have 9 other people.
Right.
Or 8 other people.
8 others, yeah, right, exactly. So, we just have to find things that we agree on. We've been elected to represent 40,000 people, so there's going to be disagreements, and that's how democracy is, and that's what makes it, not everybody in town agrees, so there will be disagreements, but that's what makes democracy great. We'll come to some majority consensus, and I think that wisdom of the majority will sort of set us on the right path with that money, and hopefully Groton can come back stronger than we were before pre-pandemic.
Well, my hopes are really high. We didn't even get a chance to talk about his family, and to me the most important part of a person is their family. To me, it shapes who they become, it's who they are, and if you know the Melendez family, you know that this isn't just a fluke. He's not here saying all these things because he thought of it on his own. It's because you were shown.
Absolutely.
And no one's better. I mean, as far like the pride that they had, no matter what they were watching, whether it was baseball or being on the track, to hear your father talk about you, when even at the workplace, there's nothing but pride. So.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're coming to the end of Born Political. I want to thank my guest. Mayor Melendez, it rolls off the tongue. Groton, if you live in Groton, town of Groton, the city of Groton, he covers all of it. Get used to saying Mayor Melendez. That is our mayor for 2 years. I'm very proud to have him on the show. Very proud that he's our mayor, and you should be too. Next week on Born Political, I'm still working on who we're going to have for a guest. Like I said last time, if there's someone out there that you think would be a great guest, text me, email me, let me know. I'll interview them. We'll get to the bottom of who they are, just like we did here tonight with Mayor Melendez. Juan, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.